Greetings, traveler. I'm SnapJelly, and I'm kinda late to the party since this article is from August, but I still wanted to talk about it. You see, in early August, an article popped up about the UK wanting to ban these quote-unquote zombie knives because of apparently an increase in crimes happening with these zombie knives. Now, a lot of people didn't like this because of the vague description that is the zombie knife. I'm going to leave a link to the article in the description below so you can read it yourself if you want, but I'm going to read it to you right now. Point number 1. There is no specific shape or style, but they are very ornate and intended to shock. Alright, so fucking hell. So you're saying they have a couple of examples, and some of them actually look more like axes than they do like knives, but you're saying they have all kinds of shapes. Fine. Point number 2. In varying lengths, and often with a serrated edge. Often, not always. The knives carry logos or words that glamorize and promote violence. What? I mean, this kind of confuses me because does a zombie knife have to have all of these points or just some of them? Because in that case, if you have a knife that doesn't have any words, you should be fine. Right? Whatever. 3. They can cause greater damage due to their size. This is dumb and stupid and not true, but this article is clearly written by somebody who doesn't know anything about knives. You see, if you have a really thin knife, it makes it really easy to reach your vital organs. So they are actually more dangerous, arguably. Just because it's big and it has a lot of spikes and stuff doesn't make it more dangerous. And also, due to their size, you just said that they had varying lengths. Does that mean that if a zombie knife is this big, it's not a zombie knife? What does that mean? Get the point, it's a vague description. Right, and last point. They are being sold as collector's items online and in some shops. Alright, so what we have here is, it's a knife. Alright, it maybe has a serrated edge, or it doesn't matter. You can stab people with it, and they're being sold. Right, the only part that really is kind of a description is the words part. You know, if you have a knife that says, ooh, brains, or kill, whatever the fuck, then yeah, okay, that's kind of stupid. But the rest doesn't make any sense. You're either describing a knife whilst not really describing a knife. Anything could fall under that category. So people are obviously scared and upset, thinking that, well, if Mr. Police Officer doesn't like me, finds my knife collection, I might get arrested because they are now zombie knives. What makes it a zombie knife and what doesn't? Well, I don't know. This is a problem. But personally, I don't think that this particular ban, considering there is a more distinct description of what a zombie knife is, this wouldn't be that much of a problem in my opinion. You see, the thing is, people who like weapons like you and I are usually biased against weapon laws because they bother us. You see, just giving you one example, considering the laws in the Netherlands, dull swords fall under the same kind of category that military weapons do, which is really dumb, but alright. And anything that looks like a real sword falls under this category, so that includes LARP swords. Fucking stupid, but okay, I get that Betty from across the street doesn't get that if she sees me carrying a LARP sword from a distance that is not an actual sword. She doesn't know what a sword looks like, so I kinda get it, it makes sense. But what that means is, you are not allowed to have military weapons, but this is an exception if you need to do 3 actions in order to draw the weapon. Which is dumb. So that means I have to have my sword in a scabbard, in my sword bag, with the zipper closed, and then it's alright, because I have to open the zipper and get the sword out, and then unsheath the sword for me to draw it. So that's 3, and then I'm allowed to carry it. What? Why? This obviously poses a problem because I usually go anywhere on bike or on foot, and if it's a really long distance I go by train, alright? So if I go to a store to buy a sword, which there are shops in the Netherlands that just sell dull swords, right? If I go there, then I need to, one, bring my sword back, which isn't much of a problem because I can just fold it up. But I also have to bring a shit ton of bubble wrap, for example, because not all swords have a scabbard, and scabbards are really expensive, and I might want to buy a sword without a scabbard just because it's cheaper, but I need to have 3 actions in order to draw it, otherwise I can't carry it in public, and all kinds of stupid shit like that. So a lot of people, a lot of weapon collectors are against weapon laws because of that, because it's bothersome and because it's stupid. Like, if I buy myself a dull sword, I'm not gonna go to the train station to stab somebody in the neck with it, right? But Mr. Police Officer doesn't know that it's still a weapon. It counts as a weapon by law. So I'm actually really lucky that you are allowed to carry them legally, right? Now the thing is, if you are a knife collector, this is obviously bothersome to you. But does not having a zombie knife really bother you? You see, the thing is, these zombie knives, they look ridiculous. They have all kinds of spikes. They're not really effective. They're not practical in any way, and they're intended to look fancy, right? And there is a small percentage of people that like practical knives and also buy these zombie knives because they think they look cool. And they're not allowed to buy the knives now anymore if this law breaks through. Well, if that's it, that's really not that much of a problem if you ask me. Because the majority of people who buy these type of weapons are idiots that should not be allowed to carry weapons. Just ever. You know, that's the thing. Because just look at the amount of stupid weapon reviews you see on YouTube. Wait a second. When you see people do shit like this. Yeah, I'm gonna review this knife. It's pretty cool. It looks really cool. It's really sharp, cool too. It cost me $700.69. It's not that expensive, and I'm gonna test how sharp it is. Yeah, I mean, look at that, it's super sharp. Like one goes cool knife. The idiots is basically what I'm trying to talk about. There are a lot of those, right? These idiots buy these types of weapons because they look flashy, because they can show their friends, like, ooh, look at this is a scary knife, isn't it? And those things just escalate and turn into bad things. I know it's kind of a stupid argument that you can't make, but it does happen, right? You see, I'm not against weapon restriction laws because actually counter arguments, usually. I was against weapon restriction laws, but the counter arguments that people make don't really make sense to me. You see, I usually hear from people who are against weapon restriction two things. One is people saying stuff like people with bad intent can get their hands on weapons anyway, which arguably is true. And two is people saying that the streets might actually get safer if multiple people are allowed to carry weapons, if good citizens are allowed to carry weapons. Like people who mug, like an old lady in an alleyway, might be not so intent on mugging that old lady, considering that anybody in the street could be carrying an axe or a knife or a baseball bat. But here's the thing. How many good citizens would actually willingly carry a weapon? I don't think that much. You see, personally, if carrying weapons was legal, then I would still probably not carry a self-defense tool, because if I get attacked with a knife, then I would run. You know, that's the best defense you can do, and even if I'm not capable of running, then I will most likely not struggle, because that decreases the chance of me getting stabbed to death. Get the point? If somebody draws a knife on me and I draw a knife back, then he might back off, or we get into a knife fight and it turns real ugly. So what do you choose? There are no winners in a knife fight, really. And if it's somebody who is trained in the usage of knives, then he is most likely going to choose a practical knife to begin with. So he's not going to be bothered by not being able to buy himself a zombie knife. Get the point? These knives, they're not functional, they're not more dangerous, they're impractical pieces of shit that only people buy who either think they look cool, or people who are convinced that they are cool and effective, so people who don't know shit about knives and shouldn't be allowed to carry knives in the first place. So who is actually bothered by not being allowed to carry or have zombie knives? No one, really. I mean, yeah, it would suck if you were not allowed to have any weapons completely, because that would just completely destroy my hobby. I would have to give up everything. But these specific weapons that people talk about, these spiky green toxic colored types of shit made out of the cheapest metal ever, they're not more dangerous than an actual knife. But the majority of knife casualties are done with kitchen knives anyway. So if you get rid of this one type of knife, right, you already limit the chance of something really dumb escalating, because nobody's gonna go up to his friends with a kitchen knife and say, ooh, how cool is this, right? No, but they will with something funky, stupid looking. Get my point? I am not particularly bothered with the so-called ban on zombie knives. Now, it's not the country I live in, but if it was the Netherlands, then still, I wouldn't really be bothered by not being allowed to buy zombie knives if the description was more clear. So I hope the description gets more clear, but really, who is bothered by this? The small percentage of people who want to buy these weapons just because they think they look awesome. That's it. But if that's really it, I don't think it's much of a problem. So that was it, guys. It's my opinion. You might disagree with me. By all means, feel free to post a comment or rage comment about how I'm an idiot. I'm fine with that. But thank you for joining my quest, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Bye, guys. Meow.